Welcome back to Pistons Thoughts, and today we're going to talk about how the Pistons can spend their money with a little bit of free agency shaking things up. Look, Pistons are one of only a few teams with a good amount of cap space I keep saying summer, but it's the off season. Summer's past. I get it. Stop yelling at me. It is what it is. It's the summer in my mind. And there aren't really many, if any, free agents who are really worth that money. Now, I talked about Christian Wood in the last video and how the Pistons may need to overpay a little bit to keep him. Sort of following that lead, we're going to talk about someone today in Malik Beasley, who the Pistons will almost certainly need to overpay a little bit to coax him away from the Minnesota Timberwolves, but I'll tell you why it's worth it and why the Pistons should absolutely do this. Let's dive in. So Malik Beasley, 23 years old, was traded mid-season to the Minnesota Timberwolves this year. Now, all things considered, you would assume that he's a top priority for the Timberwolves, and I'm sure that he is. All signs have indicated that that's the case. Now, where the Pistons step in is the Timberwolves have gotten the number one pick in the NBA draft. They also have the 17th pick. With all of that committed, they don't have a ton of wiggle room to keep the restricted free agents of Malik Beasley, Juan Hernangomez, etc. And it looks like they're sort of in win-now mode. Also, they're changing ownership, which usually signals that there's a little bit of a restriction in terms of how much money they could spend, especially how much money they can go over the cap. And they'll almost certainly have to do that if they keep the number one pick, re-sign Hernangomez, and re-sign Malik Beasley. So, here's sort of the scenario where I could see the Timberwolves letting him walk. Keep in mind, with a restricted free agent, the team that has the rights to him, in this case the Timberwolves, can match any offer sheet that Malik Beasley signs, and he stays with the Timberwolves. So that's the catch. So you're not going to get him on a team-friendly, reasonable deal if you're the Pistons, because otherwise the Timberwolves would certainly match that. Any team would. Like I said, Malik Beasley's 23 years old. As a starter, in 14 games with the Timberwolves this year, Malik Beasley put up 20.7 points per game. He was shooting over 42% from three. Now, those are good numbers. I know it's a small sample size, but I'm telling you, the Pistons need to take these risks on young players, especially a 23-year-old who I've personally liked. I actually proposed last summer that the Pistons move Blake Griffin to Denver in exchange for Malik Beasley and Paul Millsap, and the Pistons give up a pick. I wanted that when Malik Beasley was still buried on the Nuggets bench. And if you look at the footage, he's doing it in all kinds of ways. He's getting to the basket, he's making cuts and moving without the ball, he's driving into the lane, he's finishing at the rim, he is athletic, and he can shoot the ball. Now, he was sort of buried on the Nuggets bench, obviously behind Gary Harris, Will Barton, and their abundance of wings. So it made sense that the Nuggets were going to move on from him because it wouldn't make sense to pay him this coming summer like the Timberwolves or the Pistons will have to do. Now, there's obviously the sample size argument, as we had to deal with Christian Wood. It's a small sample size of him putting up 20 points a game and being a primary scorer on a team, but in the Pistons rebuilding situation, you're going to have to take some gambles on guys like this, on young guys like this who show potential, and especially utilize limited opportunity, even though it's limited. It's a small sample size. Like I said, 14 games as a starter for the Timberwolves this year, but last season, 55 plus games for the Nuggets off the bench in 22 minutes a game. He was putting up 11 points a game, so in his third NBA season, he's still proving that he's a solid player. That's sort of where I think, at worst, if for whatever reason he completely regresses and is given more opportunity and he's putting up 11, 12 points a game, that's the absolute worst case nuclear scenario that happens with him. That's not going to happen. I've been a fan of his since he was coming in the draft. He actually, hinted at him wanting to be in Detroit, and there was interest on Detroit's side too. They ended up picking Henry Ellenson, one pick before Malik Beasley. And we know where that ended up. But it's not too late. You can give him some money. Look, I think that in a situation like this, similar to Christian Wood, you're going to have to overpay him a few $1 million a year to grab him away from the Timberwolves. And again, similar to Christian Wood, this is why it's worth it. Because by the time that those extra few $1 million are going to matter, you'll be ready to use them. But until then, for the next 2, 3, 4 years, it's not going to make or break you to have to pay him an extra $2, $3 million to keep him and have a young shooting guard at 23 years old who can score the ball. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, Jordan, Where does that leave Luke Kennard? We already have a young player who can score the ball. Listen, here's the situation, and here's why I think that getting Malik Beasley is worth it. Luke Kennard right now is probably your best asset, along with Derrick Rose, potentially. You have Luke's extension talks coming up this summer, probably won't go anywhere. Next season, he's a restricted free agent, and you're in this boat that Malik Beasley is in. Now, here's what I propose. You go get Malik Beasley. You may have to go up to the $15-16 million range to get him. And again, I think that's okay because I think that's in the ballpark, maybe a little bit higher than you're going to have to end up paying Luke next summer. So you might as well get Malik Beasley, who I think has the potential to be a better player than Luke Kennard. Now listen, the comparisons, Luke is a much better playmaker. Luke is a better pure shooter. But I think Malik Beasley is more of a scorer. I think he's more athletic and he does more without the ball. But in this scenario, in this hypothetical scenario, you get Malik Beasley and you're able to move Luke Kennard, again, your best young asset, for another asset. And you're not really missing a step in the process. I love Luke Kennard. I'd love to see him on the Pistons for a long time, but here's the thing. When you get an opportunity to get someone to sort of replace him, maybe even be better than him down the line, again, Malik Beasley, 23 years old. That's when you really start building this thing. You've gained an asset through your cap space, which is one of your biggest assets this summer, right? You get Malik Beasley that way. You use Luke to get a pick or another young player or some combination or whatever it may be, but you're getting something else. You're losing Luke, obviously, but like I said, you replace that with Malik Beasley. So we'll do the same walkthrough we did with Christian Wood, where in a smaller sample size, yes, he's better, but let's walk through it's a little bigger than you think it is. In 20-plus minutes a game, which he got 18 times, he averaged over 13 points, shooting 41% from three, and all around providing good value. Now, in 30-plus minutes, in those 14 games, 20.7 points, 42% from three, he is proving himself as one of the go-to scorers on the Timberwolves last season, and now he would absolutely be a top 2 scorer on the Pistons pretty much from day one. Now, maybe there's a situation where you're overpaying him, but the Wolves are still contemplating matching it. Maybe a sign and trade situation comes up where you give them a little something for their service to not match, and you get to keep Malik Beasley. The main point is this. Malik Beasley, 23 years old, I think has the potential to legitimately be a 20-point scorer next year, especially on a team like the Pistons. What you get, 2 birds, 1 stone. You're also able to move Luke in a subsequent move, which gets you another asset back without missing a beat. This is why I think that the Pistons should ultimately throw the bag at Malik Beasley, carry on with the rebuild, and you get yourself another really good, young, intriguing, full of potential piece. So, agree with me, disagree with me, yell at me, give me a hug. It doesn't matter. Shoot me a like. Shoot me a subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Pistons Thoughts. We'll keep these videos coming because we're having fun. Until next time.